We'll give it another minute to let people start coming in. All right, you ready, Dan? Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get to Know George, Masonry's AI system, brought to you by Dan Kamys with the MCAA. Right now, everybody is in listen-only mode, so if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand in the chat or just type your question into the chat, and we'll have time at the end to answer those questions. Um, Again, thank you all for being here, and your presentator is Dan Kamys. Dan, take it away.
Morning, everybody. I am Dan with the MCAA. For those of you that don't know me, I am the Director of Content here, and I'm excited to be showing you our George system. So with me just down the hall is Jason Blake, who's our Director of Technology, and I like to joke that he is the brains behind the AI, and he just doesn't like to present, so you get stuck with me for these presentations. One thing I should note is that we have hired a new staff member named Alfonso. He may be sitting right next to me right now. He is what we're calling our innovation coordinator. So he is going to be working with our content and technology teams as kind of a bridge. And eventually he'll probably be doing these presentations in my place. So this effort with George and the development has been about 2 years of work. Actually, we're coming up on almost 3 years. We recognized a few years ago that AI was going to be something that either the masonry industry could fear or they could adopt. And we thought it was an evolution of the MCAA's place to be the flag bearer for pushing for the adoption of AI within the industry. So we've been hard at work creating George for almost 3 years now, and it's been a work in progress between our technology team and content team. So a lot of the groundwork of what you'll see today started with our technology team, and then there's kind of been somewhat of a handoff to our content team for the creation of these assistants. And I'll explain why as we get through this presentation. So, like I mentioned, it was important for us to help the masonry industry adopt AI in a meaningful and practical way. And when I started doing these presentations, I think it was in August or September, we officially rolled out that we were working on George. This slide was more of kind of a warning that was theoretical. I would always say that AI is going to be a buzzword that a lot of companies are going to slap onto things, and they're going to deliver an inferior product. And the funny thing is now almost at the end of 24 going into 25. That's exactly what's happening, not just within the masonry and construction industry, but overall. You're seeing things like, I think my washing machine has AI on the end of it, and it's not really AI. It's just an excuse for them to charge more money for it. So um, it's a buzzword by and large. Within the masonry and construction industry, we do see tangible examples now of companies who are throwing AI on something just as an excuse to charge more for a product that doesn't deliver. Um, we aimed to be the first, and I believe we are the first within the masonry industry to develop a solution to kind of cut off those unscrupulous companies at a pass. Not only from the perspective of charging our members for things that they aren't going to deliver on and cost an exorbitant fee, but because um, the MCAA really is the source of a lot of the information that would be used in responsible AI development. So we've created these training programs, we've created these manuals, and now pushing them into an AI solution that's more interactive is just the next step in our role within the industry. So there's a few reasons we aim to develop an AI solution. I'm aware it's pretty unconventional for a trade association to do that, but for those of you that know us, that's kind of the name of our game. So let's talk about what good AI versus bad AI is. I'm sure many of you in the audience have used things like ChatGPT or Google's Gemini um, in a testing environment to see what AI does. I I don't I don't know if the term bad AI is the correct term in this case, but it's what I use. I think inefficient AI or unspecific AI is like fishing with a bad net. So you'll catch everything you want and don't want. So let's say we were going for blue fish in this scenario. Bad or generic AI would catch everything. You'd get an octopus and a stingray, an orange fish and jellyfish, and it would do its best with what it knew. So, but you'd still catch everything. You would get bad answers, or in some cases, unsafe or dangerous answers. Good AI is like having a good fishing net. So you catch the items you want. You want blue fish. You don't want jellyfish. You don't want octopi. You don't want stingrays. Um, but it does go a little bit deeper than that. So this is the very high level view of what bad AI is or generic AI is versus good or purpose built. I use the term purpose built AI a lot. But there's more than that. So when we are creating the assistants, so these are the tools that are specific to something that will help within the industry. There's more criteria, and there's really three. The first is coaching. So the best way to think about this, and this is not on the slide, coaching is like the employee handbook. This can be as short as maybe a few paragraphs. It can be as long as multiple thousands of words of instructions for how these assistants are to behave. It specifies that they are not to go to outside sources for their information, not to go to Google for their information. They're only to look at the trusted resources. Now, once we set that employee handbook up, there are a few numerical criteria or values that we set beyond that. The first is the top P. So this is done at the front end. It's the spot where you fish. It's the likelihood of acceptable answers that the AI will look at. So AI is about really filtering possible responses is the best way to think about it. That's why I like to refer to it as fishing. So top P is at the front end. It's the spot where you fish. And then the temperature is once it kind of knows what the answer is going to be, this is how it presents it to you. So let's go back to the blue fish analogy. Let's say I don't want fish with yellow fins, for an example. They're blue fish, but I don't want the ones with yellow fins. Well, the temperature value is what helps filter that out as well. So at the end of the day, what we're doing is really creating a specific fishing experience for each task that a masonry professional might need or someone within the industry. So I do like to joke that I sound like I know what I'm talking about with AI, and I do after about 3 years, but I didn't always do that. So this striking young man who only bears a passing resemblance to me about 10 years ago, which is purely accidental, is Gomez. So what Jason advised me to do when we started working on the AI as a larger team was make an assistant for yourself and use that knowledge you gain to understand how to create assistants for the industry. So I like to joke that Gomez, who you'll meet in a little bit, he is the assistant I never knew I needed. And now, truthfully, I really can't I can function without him, but be a lot harder for me to function without him. So some of the things that he's trained on. He can write an email like me, so he can take all 9 years worth of emails I've ever sent since I've worked at the MCAA. He can analyze how I've written emails over time and how they've changed. He can take a topic and draft an email with guidance in the style of how I'd write it. And I'll tell you, he's probably 95% accurate. He can transcribe my handwriting. So if you've seen our office, and I'm looking at the boards right now, two of our walls are big whiteboards. Frequently, my handwriting is all over those. I can take a picture of it. I can put it into Gomez and he can type it out for me and organize my notes. He can analyze complex data and edit using AP style, which is important to the content work I do, like for our magazine. He can generate images like his own, and he can help me draft an outline for a talk about AI. So he did help me with this presentation, the structure of it. So once I had that knowledge, we could really survey the industry and better understand what the needs were for specific assistants. So again, each one of these, many of them are in beta right now. So we have 8 assistants that are in beta and available to everybody right now. We have about 30 that are being worked on behind the scenes to really help contractors, instructors, all different types of people within the industry be more efficient at their job. So I won't read this to you. I'll let you kind of look at the slide and see what we're working on. But what I will say is that with how efficient we've gotten at creating assistants so far, and certainly with Alfonso on the team now, uh, our lead time for creating a new assistant. So if somebody came up to us off the street and had information on what their idea for an assistant was, we could typically get one up and running with testing included in about 2 weeks. So within 2 weeks, we could have a new assistant again that's purpose built, designed to do one of these specific tasks, and really designed to make the industry more efficient. So we have 8 in the beta test right now. We anticipate being in the free open beta of George through the end of 2025. At the earliest is when that would end. We anticipate that there would be about 30 assistants available in that free open beta within the next year. So we're very excited. We're very happy with the development and the response we've seen so far. We're certainly always available to brainstorm any ideas or discuss some topics you might think would be a fit within George. So these are the assistants that live within George. And what I'd like to stress again is that our AI is not Google or ChatGPT. It's more specific. It's more industry tailored. It is not going to outside sources. It's very carefully calibrated for each task within the construction and masonry industry. It's been improving consistently since the very first day we started working on it. That was one of the pillars of our development, was that we would not lose any data. So we have everything saved. It's been continuously fed and iterated and improved these assistants. So we have about 3 years of knowledge. And now I think it's about 3 months of public use that have been going in to feed the improvement of these assistants and AI. And I'm not dramatic and I don't tend to exaggerate. I do think it's going to change the industry. It is not, I think anytime soon, I would say at least a decade, it's not going to replace people's jobs. It is going to make them much more efficient and much more effective. I liken it to when the computer started being involved and email started being involved in the workforce. This is the evolution of a tool for the industry. So you talk to it like a human, it can think like a human, it can sometimes simulate responding like a human, but it definitely can't replace a human. I do think it's going to change the industry, though. So that's talking a lot about the assistant. So those are those purpose-built tools that are designed to help you be more effective in something you do. But what was arguably more important for us as we developed George was how is it packaged? And we had uh, three pillars of the development that we would not budge on. So it needed to be familiar, simple, and seamless. So familiar meant you didn't need to really learn anything. If you were using current technology right now, like a smartphone or a computer, you could pick up George easily. It was simple, so you could get the answer you wanted without being inconvenienced in any way. And it was seamless, meaning you could really pick it up and it wouldn't make you learn anything new. It wouldn't make you install anything. It would be very simple for you to incorporate into your workflow. And so George, which is the solution that all of these specific purpose-built assistants are live within, um, is our what we call Masonry's AI workspace on any device. So that is George. So the assistants live within George. Now, one of the first things I always get asked is what kind of computer should I have? What kind of phone should I have? What kind of tablet should I have? Do I need to install an app? How do I find it on the App Store? The answer to that is pretty simple. You can run George on any device with a browser. So we've actually tested it on 10-year-old laptops that have a Wi-Fi connection, a cell phone out in the field with a data connection. Will work as long as you have a web browser, and it doesn't matter what web browser it is. Um, and an internet connection of some sort, George will run on your device. So it's all tied to your MCAA account, which is why we would encourage you to have everybody at your respective companies set up a free MCAA account. Whether you're a member or a non-member, it is free and in the beta right now, so it is accessible to everyone. Once they have an MCAA account, you'll log into that through our website and you'll click. There's a big red button that says George AI on the upper left. You'll click that and you'll see what I'm about to show you very shortly. So there is really nothing to install. And as you'll see, and I hope you'll agree with, there's not a whole lot to learn for the George system. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you some of our assistants. So I will introduce you to Gomez, and I will let you know that we are rolling out personal assistants likely after the first of the year, very shortly after the first of the year. What that means is you'll have an assistant who'll be able to write emails in your style. They can help you take notes. They can listen out in the field to what you can do. One thing I didn't stress yet, but I'll show you, is that you can talk or type to George, so you can talk to it. It'll talk back. You can start something out in the field on your laptop, pick it up back at the office on your desktop, and all your conversations, all your assistants, they will be carried over because again, this lives through our database. We'll talk about industry-specific translations. This is one of the most exciting assistants that we've created. So not generic masonry, generic Spanish, excuse me, specific masonry Spanish. We took every piece of content we've ever had translated from our accepted translator, and that's used to coach to create an employee handbook for our translation assistant. That will work through transactional translations. So basically, I say something, I hit submit, it gives it back to me in Spanish. I can then copy and paste it into an email or a text, or I can play it for somebody out in the field. It also has the functionality to do live Spanish translation. So what that means, and we'll be demoing it at our Foreman Development course at the World of Concrete in Las Vegas. If you were listening to this presentation right now and we were running it through the live translation assistant in George, and you had an AirPod in that was connected to your device, within a 5-second delay, you would be hearing industry-specific masonry Spanish in your ear. So I like to call it a United Nations translator in the pocket of every foreman and every field person within the masonry industry. So that is a feature that's available right now. I will show you the wall bracing and productivity assistance. Those are great examples of how very long documents can be made very usable for those within the industry. And then I will give you a brief overview of our five most recently released assistants within the beta. One takes our forklift training book, which is something we sell right now, and it turns it into an assistant that can actually proctor tests, and it can answer questions. And then we have four specific to safety rules. So we'll try and get through all of those demos. This is the first time I'm doing the presentation with five more assistants, so it might take us a little longer because I do want to show some of them to you. But with that, I'm going to flip over to George. So like I said, when you initiate George for the first time through the MCAA database, you'll click that big red George AI button on your profile. You will have a brief load the first time. It will have a quick loading process. I think it's at most a minute. And then this will load. So this is your personal desktop, and it functions exactly like what you would expect a desktop to. You can right click, you can change your backgrounds, you can change your theme, you can save your desktop layout, you can do you can select a different microphone, for an example. That will be important when we talk about the dictation portion. You can customize it to yourself. This desktop is your desktop. So once this has, 30 assistants in it, you might want this to look very different for your safety director versus for your estimator versus for you as the CEO of the company. Everybody's George desktop will be different. Again, nothing is installed on your computer. This is running through a web browser right now. There's no resources really being drained from your computer to do this. The way I use George in our office is that I have one screen that is just George, and it's where I'm working on the AI stuff, and I have the other screen that is specific to my actual computer desktop. So without further ado, let me first open a conversation. So you'll see more assistants here than are publicly available. That's because we're working on a lot right now. So again, I click the assistant button. This window that opens, again, it's designed to be familiar and simple. This looks like your chat windows for your group chats and text messages on your phone or your iPad or your computer. It's very approachable. Once you select your assistant from this left panel, which again, I can open and close, you'll create a new conversation. So conversations or threads, which you'll hear us call them. I can't multitask, so give me a minute. Once you create your new thread or conversation, that's where you can do things like here, you can click this button and upload reference files. You can upload files to it so it processes those as you work on it. You'll have the voice button, which I'll show you very shortly, or you can type your message. So I'll just type a
Interesting. Let me
hello.
see.
It'll talk back by default. You can turn that off. You can turn that off by lowering the volume button in your taskbar of George. I'm going to leave it on for the purposes of this demo. But you'll see it's very quick. Gomez replied back to me very quickly. So I'll do a voice test right now. Hi, Gomez. I'm in a get to know George session where I'm showing people who may be unfamiliar with you what you're capable of. Can you outline what we can work on together and what you can help me with for them?
Let's see here. Absolutely, Dan. I'm here to make your life a bit easier and maybe even a little more entertaining. Here's a rundown of what we can work on together. 1. Content creation and editing. I can help you draft, edit, and refine content, whether it's for articles, press releases, or any other written material. I can also ensure it aligns with your style and tone. 2. Email crafting. Need to send out emails that are both professional and personable? I can help draft those in your unique style, making sure they hit the right notes. 3. Teaching assistance. Since you teach university courses, I can assist with preparing teaching materials, grading, and providing feedback on student assignments. 4. Research and information gathering.
So I won't have it read everything to us, but as you can see that when I talk about that, this is the assistant I didn't know I ever needed. It's true. It's made me much more efficient. It's allowed me to work on different things, more fun things, more impactful things, and kind of take these basic things like writing a long email and made it very, very quick for me. So let's do an example of the email drafting. Before I do that, I do want to stress that again, you don't have to name yours Gomez. You can name yours whatever you'd like. The personal assistance feature will be made available to everybody shortly after the beginning of the new year. Excuse me. What that will entail is you'll do a brief questionnaire about what you'd like to name the assistant, how you'd like to communicate with them. So Gomez is much more informal than a lot of people. Jeff in our office, his assistant is named Alfred after Batman's butler. He's much more polished and put together. He's not as fun as Gomez. Don't tell Alfred I said that, though. You'll give it a personality. You'll give it what you like to be referred to as. You'll give it your preferred communication style, how you like to approach projects. Do you like to go methodically? Do you like to give it all the information and see what it can do? That feature will be available to everybody very shortly. What it will do when it's pushed out to everybody is if you draft an email, which I'll show you now, you'll click send to my email. It'll open up your email browser, the window, populate that message in it. All you'll have to do is give it a subject line and click send. So these features are very close from the personal assistant side to being made public to everybody. So hey, Gomez, I need to write an email to Justin from our office. You know how I email him, so nothing fancy. Our podcast guest for 10:30 is running late. Can you let him know that we need to move on to the next one and try and get ahead of schedule so we can slot the guest who's missing in later?
Let's see here. Here's a draft for your email.
So as you can see, it drafted this email very quickly in seconds. It is written how I would write this email. There's no extra stuff there. You are able right now. So if you if you want to save the message, you can click this. I'll show it again so everybody can see it. This notebook button. You can grab this text here and paste it into your email right now. You can open it in another browser window so that you can grab the email, or you can actually grab the HTML code if you would need that for any reason. So you are able to move this into email right now. It's just a little bit more difficult than it will be in the next month or so. So Gomez can draft this to me for me very easily. And again, one thing I don't think I stress enough in these is that you can click this file upload button and include documents that you want it to look at as well. So I could, for an example, in this case, give the podcast schedule to Gomez and say, okay, propose how we'll adjust the schedule that's attached and give that recommendation to Justin in this email draft. So don't be afraid to upload reference files. Don't be afraid to tell it it's not exactly what you'd like. So let's have it adjust this real quick. Hey, Gomez, I don't want to do a salutation for Justin. He knows me. Just get to the point really quick and tell him what to do so we can keep moving.
Okay, I'm on it.
So this is a version that is much more to the point. One thing I would like to stress for those of you in the audience, talk to these AIs or type to them, however you want to communicate. Talk to them like people. So say, hey, that's not what I'm looking for. Treat it like a junior staff member. That's the best advice I think I can give you. Don't treat it like a Google search. Don't be generic. Give it context for what you're working on so that it can be successful in what it's trying to create for you. So it will adapt to what you recommend to it. Again, this conversation is saved through everything, and you can pick it up across devices. So that's an example of the personal assistant side of things. What I'd like to show you now is let's move to the Spanish translations. Again, a lot of these assistants that you're seeing here, they're used for testing purposes. Some will never be external, some will never be made public. We use a lot of them for internal use. I would say for about 8 months now, We've been using a lot of assistants for internal use, things like proofing, things like Spanish translation, social media assistance. Those types of things have been publicly being used by the MCAA for a long time now. So let's flip over to the Spanish translation. And forgive me, I can't multitask yet again. We're going to create a new thread here. So with this assistant, this will translate what you tell it and give you the Masonry specific Spanish translation pretty quickly, which again, you can copy and paste, or you can play that message over for your team right now. The live Spanish translations, those also work right now. So the way you would use that is you would hit this microphone button and just keep talking. Now, your crew, who would need to be in the same conversation, would have their AirPod in, they would have this thread open, and they would have it playing for them on a repeat. If anybody would like to see that feature demoed, please reach out to me after this meeting. And because that one takes a little bit of a different setup, we will do personal instructions for those. Alfonso's working on some video walkthroughs and things like that to make this easier for people. So that will be made available very shortly as well. But we won't be demoing the live translations here, but just know that it is available right now. So let's do an example. Hey everybody, this is Dan at the main MCAA office. I just wanted to remind you that it is a day that's expected to be over 85 degrees, which means our heat emphasis policy is in effect. As a reminder, drink plenty of water. It's in the coolers, in the tents on the job site, and take a rest every time you start to feel tired. Please reach out with any questions and stay safe out there.
Let's see here. Hola a todos, soy Dan de la oficina de MCAA en Maine. Solo quería recordarles que hoy se espera que la temperatura supere los 85 grados, lo que significa que nuestra política de énfasis en el calor está en efecto. Como recordatorio, beban mucha agua. Está en las neveras, en las carpas, en el lugar de trabajo, y descansen cada vez que empiecen a sentirse cansados. Por favor, no duden en comunicarse si tienen alguna pregunta y manténganse seguros allá afuera.
So again, what I'd like to stress with this assistant versus using Google Translate, which you can absolutely use, this is trained on, it's got to be hundreds of articles. I lost count, hundreds of articles, hundreds of education documents specific to the masonry industry, so that it knows the vocabulary to use. It knows the preferred way to translate things. It knows the slang way to say things for people. It's taken what we've worked on since I've been here, which is to create an industry accepted Spanish vocabulary, and it's made it immediately accessible for everybody within the industry to use. So you can also type to this one. You can do the live translation. You can do the transactional translation. But again, what this does is this reinforces why AI is a tool. This levels the playing field. Suddenly, there's no language barriers on the job site anymore for people. Like I said, our foreman development course at the World of Concrete will be where we demonstrate this and use this live for the first time. So our instructors will be teaching the class both in English and in Spanish. They'll know they'll be teaching it in Spanish, but they didn't have to learn Masonry Spanish to do it. So that's the difference here. This is a very powerful tool. I would encourage you to take to your job sites to show to your Spanish speaking crew. Like I always say, these assistants are still in beta. They're not to be trusted totally blindly. I would say Translations does a pretty good job. But if you see anything, or there's a word that you would like us to have it know how to translate in one way or another, please reach out to us. The only way that we know we have to improve these assistants is through testing and through people seeing things by using them that we need to correct. So that's the whole point of this open beta. And we have thousands of users using the system already, which is great. But the more the merrier, because we would like to torture test these assistants. So we moved from kind of two, I would say, more straightforward assistants to two that are designed to serve much more specific tasks. So they are designed to take somewhat cumbersome reference materials and make it immediately usable for those within the industry. The first is our wall bracing assistant. So this assistant is trained off of a little, well, not so little book, a book called Our Standard Practice for Bracing Masonry Walls Under Construction, I think is the official title. I could be wrong. It's an 80-page book that we sell right now that basically teaches you how to brace masonry walls that are under construction. Nobody wants to read an 80-page book. I know I certainly don't, but I would love to have the information that's contained within to use on my job site. So that's exactly what this assistant does. So what I'm going to do here is show you kind of the coaching of our assistants. So some assistants are designed to get you an answer quickly. This is not one of those. This is an assistant that will ask you follow-up questions until it understands everything it needs in order to get you a safe and reliable answer. So let's start how I like to start some of these. And first make a thread, which I always forget to do. I have no idea how to use this wall bracing assistant. Can you give me an idea of what you can help with or what some of the prompts I can give you are?
Let's see here.
So don't be afraid to say, I have no idea what to do, is kind of the point.
Certainly. I can assist you with calculating the necessary dimensions and materials for bracing masonry walls under construction. Here are some examples of prompts you can use. 1. Calculating wall brace dimensions. Can you help me calculate the brace height, brace run, and brace length for a masonry wall? I need to know the dimensions for bracing a 10-foot high masonry wall. Can you assist? 2. Understanding wall bracing requirements. What are the requirements for bracing a reinforced masonry?
So again, I won't have it read everything to us, but these, again, because they act like a human, say, I have no idea what to do. I want to use you. I want to learn how to use George and this assistant within my workflow, but I don't know what to do. Say it that way. Don't say, don't go don't type wall bracing in there because it's not going to know what you're asking for it. Talk to it like a human, ask it a question, say, hey, that's not what I'm looking for. So let's do an example that shows you how it asks follow-up questions if it doesn't have all the information. I'm bracing a CMU wall that's fully grouted 32 inches on center with number 5 rebar. How should I brace this wall?
Interesting. Let me see.
To provide
So again, it's not going to give me a calculation because it doesn't have all the information here. Some of our assistants, the next one I'll show you in particular, they'll start to give you an answer that you can then narrow down through reference documents or follow-up information. This one, it's important from the start. It doesn't even begin to give you an answer until it has all the information it needs. So as an example, in this assistant, I could upload a blueprint as an example of what the wall is going to look like. It can read that blueprint and it can start to give you wall bracing information from it. It's probably going to need more follow-up information, but again, don't be afraid to throw documents into the conversation. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and answer these questions. The wall is 24 feet high. The wind speed is not expected to be over 20 miles per hour. Soil type is a clay soil. Excuse me. And we're using standard CMU.
Okay, got it. Let's see.
Thank you for providing the additional details. Let's proceed with
So what you can do, sorry, I jumped around. I always do that.
Okay, I'm on.
I don't need all those formulas. I'd just like you to give me the brace height, brace run, and brace length.
Let's see here.
So again, you can say if it starts to give you all those formulas, I don't need all that, but it will have the backup there if necessary. So let's say I have somebody who's asking me how it got to those numbers. I need you to give me the formulas for how you calculated those numbers.
Okay, I'm on it.
Certainly. Here are the formulas used to calculate the brace dimensions for your CMU wall. 1. Brace height.
So it will always have the backup there if necessary. It will always ask you follow-up questions before it starts to give you an answer. That's very important for us because these are our safety assistants. Again, they're still in beta. We don't recommend you trust them fully without having another set of eyes on them. But they will be there by the time we leave the beta because we're continuously improving it. We're working on it. We would really love if you tested these as much as possible. But it will have the backup there if you need it. Excuse me. So that's the wall bracing. Now we go from an 80-page document that really needs to get all the information it needs before it gives you an answer to a 300-page document that was written by a PhD student that we would like to give you an answer at the start. So this is our productivity assistant. And to give you some context of what I just said, this takes a study that the MCAA commissioned about 30 years ago. I like to joke with Jeff, I was just a child when this came out. It's a 300-page PhD level document that analyzes how different factors can impact productivity and as a result, your bottom line on a masonry job site. And instead of giving this study to people, which we would happily do right now, I think we've had one person ask for it in the past 30 years, we make it immediately usable for everybody out in the field. So let's give it an example. Let me ask it to tell you what it can help with. Hi, I'm doing a demo of the Productivity Assistant, and I would really like you to go into detail about what you can help us understand and calculate with regard to impacts on a masonry job site. Can you list everything that you can calculate and how you do it?
Okay, I'm on it. The Productivity Assistant can help you understand and calculate the impacts of various field disruptions on a masonry job site. Here are the key areas where it can assist. 1. Identification of productivity loss factors. The assistant can identify common field disruptions that affect labor productivity in masonry construction. These disruptions are categorized into 16 factors, such as congestion, morale and attitude, labor reassignment, crew size change, added operations, diverted supervision, learning curve, errors and omissions, and beneficial occupancy 412 source. 2. Standard conditions for field disruptions. It provides standard conditions for these disruptions, which serve as a basis for quantifying their effects. This helps in maintaining uniformity in data collection and enhances the model's future usage. 488 source. 3. Quantitative values of productivity loss. The assistant can present quantitative values of productivity loss based on statistical analysis. It compares these results with other studies to provide a more defined and accurate estimate. 488 source. 4. Model for estimating productivity loss. A model is available to estimate productivity loss due to field disruptions. This model provides average percentages of productivity loss, medians, and ranges based on standard conditions. 412 source. 5. Validation with actual project data. The model has been validated using actual project data from masonry construction projects, ensuring its reliability as a now estimating tool for burp source. 6. Formulas for calculating productivity loss. The assistant uses specific formulas to calculate productivity loss, such as loss of productivity equals lost work hours, unit of work area, percentage of...
Okay, so basically, what you're seeing within the brackets at the end of each of those answers is the fact that this assistant is referencing that 300-page document. It is looking at a 300-page document in seconds, along with its coaching instructions and those numeric values that we calibrate for each assistant, and it is helping you understand the monetary impacts and percentage impacts of productivity on your job site as a result of this 300-page study. this is what I mean. You know, if you put it in Google or you put it in ChatGPT, yeah, you'll probably get a number, but it's not going to be incredibly useful. We demoed this at our mid-year meeting in the fall, which was the first time we showed George and the system. We had one contractor who had 168 inspections on his job site over the course of, I think he had about 200 working days on the job. And the inspector was just on them. He did not have George at his disposal, and he calculated he lost about, I think it was about $400,000 on the job, or about 30% loss as a result of all of those inspections. And we ran his numbers with the documents through George live at our mid-year meeting. I didn't know what it was going to do. And it came back with a 29% productivity loss. So right there with what he himself estimated without using the study on his own. So again, these are still in beta. They're not to be trusted blindly, but they're pretty darn good right now. So let's do an example. Let me use an example that actually has been used out in the field. This is from one of our contractors who actually used this assistant after something came up on the job site. So let me run through that demo right now. I had another trade dig a hole in front of my scaffold so my crew can't access the scaffold. This has been the case for about 2 days. My crew on average is laying about 150 CMU per day, and we are unable to access the portion of the building we need to in order to continue work. This has again happened for 2 days. What's my rough productivity loss, and what can I provide you to get a more specific number?
Okay, got it. Let's see. Based on the situation you described, the productivity loss can be considered significant due to the complete inaccessibility to the scaffold, which has halted work for 2 days.
So let's do this. Just give me a rough estimate with what you know right now.
Let's see here. Given the information provided, your rough productivity loss due to the inaccessibility of the scaffold for 2 days is approximately 300 CMU. This is calculated based on your crew's average output of 150 CMU per day, which has been completely halted for 2 days. This resource is intended as a beta example of...
So it will give you the disclaimer at the end, but basically this will start to give you a percentage. You can drill it down with more reference data if you would like. You can compound productivity impact. So let's say in addition to the hole being dug that blocks the scaffold, you had low crew morale. So let's do that. Let's give that the example. In addition to that impact, my crew's morale was very low because they couldn't do their job very well even after the hole was fixed after those 2 days. So what could be the impact of those two factors together?
Interesting. Let me see. Combining the impacts of access issues and low morale, your productivity loss can be estimated as follows. 1. Access issues. The inability to access the scaffold for 2 days resulted in a direct productivity loss of 300 CMU, as previously calculated. 2. Morale and attitude. Low morale can further impact productivity. Based on the study, morale and attitude issues can lead to a productivity loss ranging from 4% to 21%, depending on the severity 1311 source. Assuming a moderate impact on morale, you might experience an additional productivity loss of around 12% 1311 source. If we apply this percentage to your daily output of 150 CMU, the additional loss due to morale would be approximately 18 CMU per day. 3. Combined impact. Over 2 days, the combined productivity loss from both access issues and morale could be roughly 336 CMU, 300 CMU from access issues, plus 36 CMU from morale impact. This resource is intended...
So again, don't be afraid to compound the factors that you're looking at. Don't be afraid to give it real-world examples from previous jobs. We would love to see what it comes up with. We'd love for you to start using this. Excuse me, again, the example that we used with the scaffold being blocked, our member was able to copy and paste that information, say this is based off of a PhD level study that the MCAA commissioned, and I calculated it off of that study. I'm going to start charging you for every day after the third that hole that's been blocking my scaffold is still there. I believe that scaffold was accessible after that second day. So, you know, this has very tangible real world uses. One of our goals is for the industry, think about how many studies that have been done that are still valuable and have useful information, but have sat collecting dust on a shelf because nobody wants to read a 300-page study. This is what George is intended to do, is to make that research, that good data, immediately usable for the industry. So what I'd like to do now briefly is show you our 5 newest assistants, and I'll just have them summarize their purpose. Again, I would encourage you to go in there and to utilize them as much as possible. This first one is our forklift training assistant. This again takes the MCAA's famous or infamous forklift training guide, and it can actually answer questions about forklift training. It can help you develop lessons for your crew on forklift training. It can actually proctor the MCAA's forklift training tests that goes along with that book. But I can't do a good a job as the assistants themselves can. So, hi there, I'm doing a demo for those who are unfamiliar to you and our George AI system. Can you please outline specifically what you are designed to help with?
Interesting. Let me see.
I am designed to assist with forklift safety and training, specifically within the context of masonry, as defined by the Mason Contractors Association of America, MCAA. My primary focus is to help users understand and comply with OSHA regulations related to forklift operations. I provide guidance on developing comprehensive training programs, ensuring regulatory compliance, and offering procedural tests based on the provided material.
So let's just have it give us a few questions. I'd like to take the forklift training test. Can we do that, please?
Let's see here.
Certainly. We can proceed with the forklift training test. I will ask you questions from the test, and you can provide your answers. After each question, I will let you know if your answer is correct or if there is a need for any adjustments. Let's begin with the first question.
So I'll answer the question, and God, I hope I get it right. But the important thing to note is, because George and all of these threads are tied to the MCAA's database, which our technology team has worked very hard to create, you are able to track scores and you're able to track the data from all of your employees. So again, give them access to the system, have them use it in the field, and you will have their test scores. You will have certain other things like Silica written exposure policies, which I'll show you next. That will all be saved through the George system to your MCAA profile on the database. The important thing is you register as many of your employees as possible now, and start getting them comfortable with George, because this will really be how many of those within the industry interact with us. So let me go ahead and show you. Let's go to the Silica one. I think it's called OSHA, that we gave it the full name. Hi there, I'm doing a demo of the George AI system. Can you please summarize your purpose and tell me what you are able to help with, please?
Okay, I'm on it.
And again, I could type for any of this. I don't feel like it just because of this demo.
I am designed to assist with creating comprehensive silica exposure policies for masonry contractors, ensuring compliance with safety regulations, and protecting workers' health. My primary focus is on understanding the OSHA crystalline silica rule and helping mason contractors stay in compliance.
So it can do all that, but let's give an example. Can you summarize the main points of the Silica OSHA rule that I need to know about and how they need to be they need to impact my operations for my company on the jobs.
Okay, I'm on it. The OSHA crystalline silica rule is designed to protect workers from the health risks associated with exposure to respirable crystalline silica, which is found in materials like sand, stone, concrete, brick, and mortar. Here are the main points you need to know about the rule and how it impacts your operations. 1. Permissible exposure LIML. The rule establishes a PEL of 50 micrograms per cubic meter of air, 50 micrograms per bar, as an 8-hour time-weighted average. This means that over the course of any 8-hour work shift.
So it can summarize that rule. I think the OSHA crystalline silica rule is at least 300 pages. I think it's somewhere around 300 pages. So again, it's taking that large document and it's making it immediately usable for those in the field. Let's go through, because some of you might be familiar with the creation of a written exposure policy, which is something that we offer right now. Again, this is in beta. This is not designed to replace taking the MCAA Silica course or creating a written exposure policy through the methods that exist right now, the form through the database on our website. However, it can do it right now as an example of what's to come in the near future. I'd like to create a Silica written exposure policy. Can you outline what I'll need to provide in order to do that?
Interesting. Let me see. To create a comprehensive Silica written exposure policy, I'll need to gather specific information from you. This information will be used to customize the policy to your company's needs. Here is a list of the information required. 1. Company information. Company name, address, contact information.
So it will walk you through, and when you use this, it will procedurally do it just like the forklift test. So it will procedurally ask you questions, take all that information and put it into a plan. What's really interesting is that on a future job, you could take the information from that first plan, identify what's changed. It can make recommendations based off the rule, off of how you should modify things on that second job site, based off of the first plan and the Silica rule. So all of the other publicly available assistance, so we have the PPE rule, we have the, what's the other one, Alfonso? I don't remember. Oh, we have HAZCOM and PPE, and then the heat emphasis, heat exposure policy. Again, the heat exposure is not a Silica rule yet. It is a proposed rule that we don't know what's going to happen when the new administration takes over. However, what we're doing again is getting ahead of the curve, and we've taken the proposed rule and the information that's contained within, and we have created an assistant based off of it. So if you wanted to create what could eventually become a written policy for it, you can. It's not required right now. But again, we're actively developing these assistants. We can get them up and running within 2 weeks. So let's say OSHA pushed forward this heat exposure rule and it was made into a rule. Alfonso and I could very quickly take that finished rule, put it into the existing assistant, and have something created for you to use in the field. It makes us at the MCAA more effective and quick to respond to things, which as a result will make you out in the field as a contractor very quick to respond to things. So there's heat exposure, there's HAZCOM, and there's PPE in addition to the Silica rule. So there's 8 assistants that are available right now. We are aiming for a monthly cadence for those being released. I think there's 2 more that are coming in our next release in the next week or so. So always be on the lookout. Make sure you're subscribed to our emails. Make sure that you are receiving all our information. I know our December story, our December cover story of Masonry Magazine was the George AI announcement. So please reach out to myself, reach out to Jason, Jeff, anybody in our office with any questions or feedback. But we would love to dialogue with you. We'd love to have you use the system, and we're always here to support you as you work on it. So Justin, that's enough talking from me. I'll fling it over to you, see if we have any questions.
Yeah, so this time we are going to open up the chat room to questions, and I actually see 2 questions that someone has typed while you were presenting. The first one is what will this cost once it's out of beta?
That's a very good question. So one of the reasons we are moving so quickly with George is again to cut off those unscrupulous companies at the pass. Saying that and then charging an exorbitant amount for it would be talking out of both sides of our mouth. So we're not doing that. Our current dues structure for members will likely change slightly to a model based off of what people use. So whether it be our new youth outreach and education initiative, our George AI system, various other resources that we have, it will change to what you use is what you pay for. Now, what does that mean for our current dues? You won't see it change dramatically, if at all. There's been talk that it could go up or down by about 15%. So it would be within 15% of what our dues are right now, most likely. The reason we need to make this accessible to the masonry industry for a very cost-effective amount is so that everybody starts to use it, and it helps close the gap on wall share. So by having these tools, which should attract younger people to the workforce, should allow people to focus on the more interesting, money-making, fun parts of the masonry industry rather than the more boring side of things or figuring out a productivity loss, should make the industry overall more appealing as well. So there's a number of reasons that we're doing it, but our due structure won't dramatically change when this does become an integral part of our due structure. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, awesome. And then last question here, and again, if anyone has any questions, feel free to type it into the chat now. Last question is, will this eventually be a part of the membership?
Yeah. So basically, that's kind of just what I said. This will be a part of the membership. The due structure won't be dramatically different than from what it is right now, but it will be a members only feature. When the open free beta that we're in right now closes, that will close to non-members. So the important thing right now is that we get as many people using it as possible and helping us improve the assistance and the system, so that eventually we will have a reliable tool which we then feel comfortable charging for as part of our membership structure. So it will be part of membership eventually.
Awesome. And it seems like as of right now, that's all the questions we have. But again, like Dan said, if you guys do have any questions that pop up after the webinar, feel free to email Dan or Jason or whoever, and we'll make sure to get those answered for you. But as of right now, I believe that is it. Dan, thanks for presenting. Always appreciate it. And I hope everyone is excited for what's to come in the future with George.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.